Welcome to another episode of Question It, where a question is posed and we share our perspectives. I'm Kevin Strauss, the host of Question It and founder of Uchi, a simple social app built around one belief that everything feels possible when you know someone has your back every day. Today's guest is my friend Melissa Hughes, who I met, I think, 7 years ago now in person. Um, and I love Melissa's brain, but I also love Melissa's heart. So, welcome to the show. And can you please introduce yourself?
Kevin, thank you. And it's great to be here. And yeah, that seems like yesterday that we met. I don't know, that was a long time ago. So I am Melissa Hughes. I am a speaker. I am an author. I am a lifelong learner. In fact, I would probably go back to college today if it wasn't so financially irresponsible at this point. But I am just one of those kids that loved to be in school, loved to be in college, and I'm still like that today. So
Beautiful. Thank you. And I'm going to say, Melissa is a neuroscientist, and that is a big reason why I said I like her brain in the beginning. But I also love Melissa's heart.
back at you,
So,
back at you, Kevin.
thank you. So before we started recording, Melissa randomly chose a question off my big long list. So today's question is, describe a time when you felt completely confident in yourself and what made that possible. So Melissa, you have the floor for as long as you want.
Well, it's an interesting question, and it's a little bit of a twisty turvy answer. So I had the best job in the world. When I left the class, started out in education. I left the classroom and I went to work for an educational publishing company, and I loved it. And I was that girl that if you sat next to me on an airplane in Boston to LAX and you said, "Hi, so what do you do?" I would still be telling you what I did when we landed in LA. I was that girl. I loved my job. And I was the director of marketing communications, and I had my team was so creative. I was in awe of how creative these artists and graphic designers, and I mean, they were just amazing. And they would do anything to make me happy, which just made that team just soar, right? And I loved my job until I didn't. And the day I didn't was when I got my terrible, horrible, no good, very bad boss. And we all have that. We all have that person. And I remember tried to make it work. Like I really tried to dig in and say, I can change the dynamics of this relationship and we can be okay and I can love my job again. And sometimes you just can't change another person. You can't change the dynamics of a relationship no matter what you do. And I lasted 6 months. I had been there over 10 years. And I was in bonus pool and I had the most fantastic office. And none of those things are supposed to matter, but they do. They do. And I lasted 6 months with this guy. And he was just incompetent. He was arrogant. He was, and most importantly, he decided that everybody under him should take the bullet for him for the people above him. And that isn't supposition. He said that in so many words. Your job is to make me look good and take a bullet for me when I don't. He said that out loud. And that was kind of my aha moment, like, this is going to be a challenge. So I made it 6 months and then I decided, my hair was falling out. Like I just couldn't do it. And when I finally, and I struggled and it was turmoil, but when I finally decided to leave, I was like Superwoman. I could do anything. Like that, making that decision just gave me such liberation, such freedom, and such confidence. And I remember that's when I went off and started my own business and I decided I was going to do my own thing. And I was like, in that moment, I said, I'm not going to work for mean people anymore, and I'm not going to be a mean person to other people. And I'm like work is just already hard. Why put all of those kinds of challenges in it? And I was so confident. And I look back on that now and I was so green. There were so many things. I had no idea how I was going to do it. And yet I had this unbelievable confidence in myself. And it was more, I wasn't confident that I knew all the answers. I was more confident that whatever it is, I can figure it out. Like I had such a wealth of knowledge and inspiration in my network around me. I had met such fantastic people. And I just knew that when something came up that I didn't know how to do, there was somebody in my life I could turn to. And I look back on that and I was like, I don't know, 14 years ago now. Like seems like a very long time. And everything has not been sunshine and roses. I mean, I've had my share of obstacles and bumps and bruises, but I've had those people. That feeling that I had of confidence was really because of all the people around me. And those people, many of those people are still around me, and I still go to them. And you know what? Along the way, people have started to come to me for, I've been somebody else's person in their journey. So yeah, so it's interesting. I had the most unbelievable confidence and I really didn't know what I was doing. Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but
it totally makes sense. Oh my God. Thank you so much see, that's a story. I never knew how that all happened. And I can't help, I was writing like more notes than I've written before. So what was it about the first job that you loved so much?
I was in the classroom and I left the classroom and went to work for it was an educational publishing company, and we created resources for teachers. And it was just in my DNA. I think once a teacher, always a teacher. And so it let me get out of the classroom, but stay in education. And I loved that.
Mm-hmm.
And over the 10 plus years that I had been there, I climbed from doing research and development to being just an author for them to becoming the director of marketing and communications. And that part of it was not something that was ever that wasn't on my plan. Like I didn't have director of Marcom on my
You didn't go to school for that?
I grew into it, right? And part of the reason I grew into it was because Marcom people have to know how to communicate the product to the people who they want to buy the product. And I had been that person. So I was a teacher, right? So I was really good at that part of it. The part I like the most is that I had this amazing team. I had designers and artists, and they were so creative and so quirky and so comfortable in their own skin, and
like interesting. It sounds like they were super interesting.
Yeah, I mean the conversations were just like amazing, and they never ceased to amaze me in what they were able to do. Like their contributions were just fantastic. And I think one of the things that I loved the most about that job was I was able to elevate them in their role. Before it was the catalog guy or the email, the e-commerce person and I think one of the things that I took such great pride in is when I got to go to the grown-up table and talk about what my team was doing. I got to say, listen, the reason that product and that product and that product are selling is because my team is making that happen. Like, yes, we have to have good products, but good products mean nothing if you don't have the people who can market it and put it out there into the world. And I really enjoyed being able to elevate those people that prior to that hadn't really had that chance to sit in the spotlight.
Yeah, like you were believing in them, but it sounds like they were all believing in each other as well.
And when I was able to, I think when I did lift them up in the eyes of the grown-ups, right? They worked harder. They
Mm-hmm.
really did not want to disappoint me. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
they took so much more pride in their work. I mean, I just remember anybody who's in marketing communications or does catalog work, you know, if you miss the catalog drop, you are screwed. You
Yeah.
are just screwed. And
That
so I
does.
remember there was one time we were so tight against the wall, and there were not because of anybody's fault, but you know, things happen, products change, deadlines change. China happened, like, so we didn't get the product. So there was just all kinds of stuff. And that team stayed like until 4 o'clock in the morning so that they could make that deadline. And I don't know, I just think they didn't do that because they love creating catalog pages. Like you do it because of the people you work with.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. It,
that's why you work so hard, you know?
yeah. Yeah. And they value you and the work you're doing, and then you value them, and it just keeps going back and forth and around and round. What keeps coming to mind as you're talking about the team and gushing about the team is a rising tide lifts all boats. That's
Boats.
what keeps, does that sound?
Yeah, of course. Of
Yeah,
course.
that cliche, but it's a cliche for, or a, what's it, a pervert, proverb? I don't know. Yeah, for a reason.
Yeah.
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 So, wow. Okay, so then the new boss, I'm like going through this whole like chain now. So this new person comes in, and now it's not about the team anymore. It's about him.
It's about him. And he was all about the title. He was all about, he knew, first of all, he knew nothing about education. He came from
Mm-mm.
some other obscure, um, I don't want to, I don't care.
Subject
I
matter,
haven't seen him for
whatever.
a long time. He came from like Sealy Posturepedic Mattress or something,
Mm.
right? In marketing. And that's not to say that there are marketing principles or marketing principles, but there's a very different way to speak to teachers.
Yeah, and it's the same whether you're talking to teachers or doctors or government people. I mean, every industry has its own sort of language and style. There are nuances to every industry, I think.
Yeah. And my first job when he came on board was to give him, like, I put together a binder to give him the history of the company, to give him, you know, who our target market was, to tell him what these are our obstacles, these are our main competitors. So I spent like 3 weeks putting this binder together, had tabs, was color coded. It was like all the stuff, right?
Everything.
It was the teacher and me coming
Yeah,
out, and I was
super
being,
organized, all the information that you need, it's
yes,
right here.
right here. And he came to the meeting and said, I don't care about any of that. That's when he said to me, your job, I'm not going to learn all of that. I mean, he looked at the binder and he was like, I'm not going to learn all that.
Oh my
And your
God.
job is to make me look good and take a bullet for me when I don't. And here's the thing, he was so arrogant and he was so incompetent. There were lots of times that he didn't look good. And there were lots of times that he threw me or somebody on my
Under the
team
bus.
under the bus. And he was chief marketing officer. So my whole team was under him. And it was
Yeah.
just, and I think, you know, afterwards, I think to myself, gosh, how lucky was I that I got him? Because I know how never to treat another person.
Right. Like I'm never going to be like that.
And B, I think one of the things that really rose to the surface for me was, wow, it isn't what you do, it's how you work with the people around you. Because today, you know, then it was making catalogs and sending out email blasts, and today it's something completely different.
Mhm.
And I don't have that team of 10 or 12 people. You
Yeah.
know, I work with a lot of different people, but there are so many times that I think of that man
Yeah.
and think of, don't be him. Like, because
Yeah.
we all get in over our heads. And he
Mhm.
was clearly in over his head. Like, No
Did he
question.
even know that he was in over his head, or he was just even clueless to that?
No, I think he figured it out. I think
No.
he figured it out when I left, actually,
Mm-hmm.
because I was trying to make it work and I was trying to
Yeah.
make him look good, and
Yeah.
I was covering for
But
him
your
in a
hair
lot of
falling
ways.
out is not the way to
No.
go.
No, and here's the funniest part of that whole story. So when I tell you, this whole thing, our conversation started with name a time that you were super, super confident. The
Mhm.
day that I turned in my resignation, on the way home, I stopped at Total Wine. I lived in North Carolina at the time. And I stopped at Total Wine and I walked in there and I said, I want the most expensive bottle of Pinot Noir that you carry. And the guy was like, I don't know, 11 o'clock in the morning, right? And he gave me, and I think it was like $60 or something. For me, that was really
Mhm.
expensive for one bottle of wine, right?
Mhm.
So I bought it and I took it home and I put it on my kitchen counter and it stayed there. And I said, the minute, and I had such good relationships with the people who were still there, and he was treating them terribly now because he couldn't treat me terribly because I wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
And I was staying in touch with those folks. And I said, the day I get word that he is being escorted to his car with his cardboard box, I am going to crack open that bottle of wine, and I don't
Mm.
care what time of day it is. And I will never forget the day I was off working.
And it happened. That
It
is
happened.
amazing. It happened.
I had an interim job between what I'm doing now and then, like, I kind of took
Yeah.
this interim job and I was sitting at my desk. It was sometime late in the morning, and all of a sudden my phone started blowing
Oh my God.
up.
That's so funny.
And then someone called me and they were like, you're not going to believe this. They're walking him to the door with his cardboard box. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, you got
Yeah.
to be going like crazy. Like, oh, that is a celebration. I mean, it's like justice served.
Yeah. And I try not to take total glee in the fact in someone else's misfortune.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in that situation, I was gleeful that he was no longer going to be tormenting the people
Yeah.
that I really cared
It
about.
needed to happen. It
Yeah.
needed to
So I
happen.
wasn't as gleeful that he lost his job as I was that he didn't get to hurt the people I cared about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That matters so much. I mean, because it's about the people. And then that's what you led into. I'm going to skip over a bunch of like the middle part there, but I can't help but, you know, well, I really want to focus on that decision. So you're like, I'm leaving, I'm out of here at that job, and you felt the confidence. Like, how, where did that confidence come from leaving? And that feeling, where's that coming from that you felt so confident? I don't know what other feelings were going on when that weight was
Well,
off your shoulders.
yeah, I think there was a roller coaster of emotions because I am not, unlike so many people, we are so, our, our professional lives are so entwined and ingrained in who we are, and it's an identity. And so when
Identity,
you
yeah.
leave a job, you I think most of us have, I know I did have a huge identity crisis. Like, I remember sitting on my living room floor kind of going, what the F did I just do? Like, who am I now? What am I supposed to do with my life? All of this.
I
And
mean, so much uncertainty.
yeah, and we know, you and I both know that uncertainty is the biggest source of stress.
Yeah.
But I think where the confidence came from was when I stopped kind of focusing on why I couldn't make that thing work. Like, I love my job. I'm good at my job. Why couldn't I make that work? And why did it have to like happen this way? And why does he get to keep his job and I had to leave? Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't even like this job.
Yeah, that can make you angry right there.
So I went through all of that. And then when I stopped thinking about all of that, and when I started focusing on, okay, now what?
Mhm.
And it was, what first, what am I good at? What can I do? But most importantly, what do I want to do? Because I think the confidence came from when I finally assumed this new perspective of I have a brand new journal with a 24 pack of Sharpie markers, and I can fill that journal up however I want. I can just make it look what I want. Well, how do I want to make that? What do I want that this next journal to look like? And I remember that analogy, like I remember having that in my head. And that was when I was like, listen, I have this experience and this experience, and I have all these people who are gonna like help me. And I just kind of sat down and I started writing, like, this is what I'd love to do. And then over the next few weeks, I think I had lots of conversations with people who care about me. And not necessarily for help, but for their perspective. Like, this is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, and just support, believing in you.
Yeah. And I had so many people say, listen, you can do anything you put your mind to. Like, you are tenacious and you are like a dog with a bone. And I am, like, I'm all of those things. But so it gave me confidence, but really those people being around me is really what gave me the most confidence, because I knew I'm going to get stuck. I'm going to run into things that I don't know what to do. And I've got people. I've
There
got
are
my
always
tribe.
bumps in the road. Yeah. I mean, gosh, I hate to bring it back to what I said at the top of at the beginning, the part of the intro. Everything feels possible when you know someone has your back every day.
Absolutely. And we didn't even plan that, Kevin. We did
No,
not
this
even
was not.
plan.
The question was random.
Yeah.
You chose a random question. But having those and having many different people, and again, you have each other's back. It's not just they have yours, which is often like a parent to a child, maybe, but the child doesn't necessarily have the parents back. Anyway, that's that whole analogy. But you have your people year after year, decade after decade, and you still have it today. Probably even more people now, and it goes back and forth. And wow, what a gift and treasure that is.
And like I say, it was maybe a year later, and I thought, I still had such disdain for this person. But I thought, I should really send him a thank you card, because
thanks for being such a jerk, because now I know all the things, not to do, or where I want to go and how I want to be. Yeah.
But it also opened my eyes to like what's important.
Yeah.
Now I know this, but like back then I was that person from my company. And if I had to be at a conference and there are things in life that there are no do-overs, and I did not pay attention to that. Like, I know I missed a very, very dear friend's funeral because I was the only person at this conference. And like, I look back on that now and I think, what was I thinking?
Yeah. Yeah. Was that really the priority? But,
yeah.
hindsight.
And so I think when I got out of that, and then I started, it's different when you start doing things for yourself. So I was building, I wasn't just building my company, I was building my reputation. I was building kind of my ethos of what I wanted to be and what I didn't want to be. Right.
Yeah. And that journal, and that's the freedom, and I can do whatever. And I know I did my last job really well. What do I want to do now? Because if I did it that well, I can do something else that well, and probably a bunch of different things.
And I do remember one person said to me, before you were marketing communications, like think back when you were in the classroom, when you were teaching fourth graders, did you know anything about marketing communications? Like, you didn't. Like, you were teaching, parts of speech and the math tables and, whatever.
I think I learned cursive in fourth grade.
Yeah. And so you learn things along the way. And so whatever it is you need to know that you don't know right now, doesn't mean you're not going to, there's a learning curve with everything. And I think one of the things that I treasure the most is it made me realize what a lifelong learner I am. Like, it
Mm-hmm.
made me realize that the actual act of learning is the thing that fuels my passion. It isn't the thing I learn, it's the act of learning. And
Yeah.
that's what makes
And
me
all the mishaps along the way,
right, right.
right? Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's a learning curve to everything. I didn't write down the last word, but yeah, everything has a learning curve. I don't know anyone who was an expert at speaking. Like, I mean, just talking on day one, right?
No,
You had to
right.
learn the whole language, you know?
Yeah.
And you didn't go to school for it, by the way. You learned your first language
Mhm.
before you even went to school. So,
Right.
you don't need school for formal education for everything.
Yeah.
So, wow. Wow. I mean, I could go on and on about that, but there was a nice transition. You said the learning curve, like there's a learning curve to everything. And I think that might actually transition into my story and to my answer to the question. I think we're doing good with time. Mine will probably be a little quicker, but okay. So I'm going to read the question again, just so it's fresh. Describe a time when you felt completely confident in yourself. What made that possible? So, again, before we got started, I wrote down a few different topics, stories that I could share on. But I think what's coming up for me most is when I did when I decided to do the Ironman triathlon.
Oh.
And that's a big endeavor, right? So anyone who knows, well, quick education about triathlon. Triathlon is a multi-sport event. It's an endurance event where first you swim, then you bike, then you run. And there's lots of different distances. Ironman is like the longest. I mean, there's double Ironman, but Ironman's the longest. So it's a 2.4 mile swim, a 112-mile bike ride, and then a full marathon, 26.2-mile run, all back to back, and you have to do it within 17 hours. Um, so that's a big endeavor. And I had no intention of ever doing Ironman when I got into triathlon. I got into triathlon in 2001 because I made a promise to a friend that I would do a triathlon with her. And then she, like 6 months later, it was time to register and she called me on it. And I'm like, oh shit, like I promised I would do this. I don't know how to swim. Like,
Right.
what am I going to do? I mean, I could tread water and doggy paddle, but I could not like do freestyle. Well, who knew that? So that was in 2001, and I did my first Ironman, actually only one Ironman, but my first Ironman in 2012. So it was 11 years in that span. But in that 11 years, I'm doing sprints, Olympics, half Ironman, and getting better and better and learning more and more. And boy, is there a lot of failure along the way of that learning curve. I mean, I had to learn so much, and I had to learn a lot when doctors and physical therapists and dietitians and nutritionists were of no help. With
Yeah.
all of their knowledge, they were like, you're perfect, everything's good. We don't know why you're having a problem with, I won't go into all that, but I had to figure all this stuff out. And through all that training, time after time after time, I mean, it was like my life for a long time. Um, I just developed so much confidence where, I mean, in the 7 weeks before Ironman, I did my Saturday workout was like 100 or 112-mile bike ride, and then I'd run for like 30 or 45 minutes afterwards. I did that 7 weeks in a row,
Wow.
and I was still training every day of the week except Mondays. So when I got to that workout on a Saturday, that long ride and then the run, I'd already been working out 5 days in a row or 4 days in a row. And then I worked out on Sunday also because Sunday was like a recovery ride for like an hour, then an hour plus swim, and then, or a ride, then a run, and then an hour plus swim. That was Sunday after the set. So I had done this like 7 weeks in a row to such high level that when I got to Ironman, like I knew I would finish Ironman, like unless I got hit by a car or wrecked on my bike or whatever. I knew I would finish
Yeah.
Ironman, and I did, and it went really well. And when I told family and friends, like, okay, look for me at this time, look for me at that time, I should finish the swim by this time, and the bike should take this long. I nailed like every single metric that I had except the run because I got a bit dehydrated. It was a hot day and hydration's kind of my Achilles heel. So my run slowed down, so I didn't hit that mark. But I had so many goals for Ironman other than time. Like 3 of my big goals were don't get sunburn, don't have any chafing, don't get any blisters, and I didn't have any of those,
Yeah.
because chafing can like really mess up your race.
Sure. But
So yeah, so that was that. I was super confident that I could do Ironman, and I was like top 30% in my first Ironman, which is really good. Um, but I hit all my goals and metrics, and I knew I'd finish. It was not even a doubt in my mind. So.
But that was because you were so prepared. I mean, your preparation, I love that story because your preparation is what gave you the confidence. Like, I've done this. I
Mm-hmm.
did this last week. I did it the week
Oh
before.
yeah.
Like, and something you said about the metrics was really interesting to me. Like, because you knew where you should be along the way, I think that each one of those milestones just gave you another boost of energy, another
Mm-hmm.
boost of confidence, because you are exactly where you're supposed to be at
Yeah.
the end of the swim. You're exactly where you're supposed to be at the end of the ride.
Yeah.
And I think about times in our lives when we are exactly where we're supposed to be, and just how empowering that
It is.
feels.
And when you realize it at the time, it's like it levels you up even more,
Yeah.
just like you're saying. Like I told my family I should be out of the water around an hour 15, give or take 5 minutes. Okay, hour 15 was my swim time, and then the second is transition one because that everything's timed. So from swim to bike is T1, transition one, bike to run is transition two, and those take time too. Um, but I told my family, I was like, I should finish the bike anywhere between 5.5 and 6 hours, and I came in at like 5 hours and 36 minutes. You
Yeah.
know?
That's gosh, that's so cool. And the science, so sorry, Kevin,
Yeah.
I have to
Oh,
get a little geeky
Uh,
about this
well,
now.
that's what we tag team on the geek stuff.
So the science of that is, if you really want to reach a goal, when you set the goal, you have to set mile markers. And the reason for that is, like, you take a big goal, you break it down into smaller chunks. And
Oh,
the
I love
reason
smaller
for
chunks.
that is because when you hit those mile markers, you get a boost of dopamine. And the
Oh, okay. I
closer,
didn't know that.
yeah, and the closer you get to the, like, you had 2 mile markers to get to the third
Hmm.
final, but the closer you get as you reach each of those milestones, the more dopamine you get, and the closer you get, it's called goal gradient effect. The closer you get to your goal, the more empowered you feel to get that goal. And I'll give you a really good example. If you have a coffee card, which we don't have coffee cards anymore, I know everything is in an app, but if you have a coffee card and you like buy 10 cups of coffee and get the 11th one free,
Hmm.
you know, when you have 1 cup of coffee or 2 cups of coffee, it's like maybe you don't even know where that card is. But when you have 8 cups of coffee and now you have 9 cups of coffee,
That's
that
true.
10th,
Yeah.
you're going to go get that 11th free
Yep.
cup.
Yep.
And life goals work the exact same way. It's called the goal gradient effect. And it's one of those quirky brain things that
I
just,
love it.
yeah.
I
And you
love
did
it
it.
because
You did
I
it with your metrics.
I love small goals. I love big goals. I mean, obviously Ironman's a big goal, but I love little intermediate goals, and I love checking off boxes, like on a to-do list and things like that. Even if I've already done it, I'll still write it down and then just check it off immediately. Um, But I love all those little goals, and then they
Yeah.
add up and you build momentum, and wow, now I know I'm getting a dopamine hit, which is like, that feels good. It's
And
better
the
than,
dopamine is fueling that momentum.
yeah.
So each time you hit a goal, you get more and more dopamine, you get more
So that's another
momentum.
reason why goal setting is important, but don't even make your goals so big. Make little goals and build up.
Absolutely. Yeah.
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 Wow. That is so cool. Wow. Thank you for that. I think on that note, we can probably wrap it up. This is another episode of Question It. Thanks for joining us. If you want to be a guest on Question It, we love regular people answering some random life questions. So there's a link in the show notes to a form you can fill out. Takes less than a minute. Maybe you'll be on the show next. Until next time, peace, love, and connect.